Okay, we're picking up with how do you train dogs? The alpha dog attitude has a very simple set of rules, and that's kind of useful to have at least some, because when you've got a dog, you've got a species that does not speak your language. And you have to get them to do things, and if you're an inexperienced owner, or you like, black and white rules, and consistency is important, if you, for whatever your reason is, never let your dog up on the couch, always make them walk at your side, always make them wait at a door, always make them eat, second.
And like my wife says, don't feed the dogs at the table.
Yeah, and what are the other alwayses?
Doorways and walking first, being higher or in the bed.
Yeah, you for some reason you insist you're always going to be physically higher than your dog. That if they have a toy, you're going to be. They have no toys unless you bring them the toy, and so forth. And
no tug of war.
And no tug of war.
Battle of wills.
A battle of wills. And so if you avoid playing tug of war with your dog, okay.
There's other games.
There's other games. Play fetch or something. Yeah. So if you make them walk after you, if you make them walk at their side, you make them eat after you. Hey, that's a simple set of rules. No harm done. That's simple. You can do that. And if you always ask them to, do something for you, always ask them to sit before you give them attention. Okay, that's fine. Your dog will get used to that. It's clear. It's simple.
And do that all the time.
And you do that all the time. Yeah. And then you're good.
That's part of the nothing in life is free training style.
Right.
Which, if you have an aggressive dog, or
if you've got a dog with problems, right, that's grabby and pushy,
needs to know where the limits are.
Right, and it's learned a dog. Dogs, like people, learn what works. So if they've learned that backing people up from their food or this, that, or the other is, or from their resting place or so forth is
or like
works
we
for
were
them.
talking about in the previous episode, old lady with little Fifi.
Yeah, who hasn't been socialized.
Right.
So if you have a simple set of rules with your dog, first socialize your dog, so
that's with children, old people, adults, other dogs, other cats, and just let them know that everybody's okay. They'll probably tell you who isn't okay, which is surprising sometimes.
Right.
Because there's been a couple people I know that my dogs just didn't like.
Right.
It's been consistent through the dogs.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's something
watch those guys.
Something to because dogs they're much more aware of our behavior than we are of theirs. Mm-hmm. Basically, people, by and large, don't adjust their behavior according to how the dog is reacting as far as their nonverbals.
Right.
And people miss their nonverbals. So when a dog's giving stress signals, lip licking, looking away, panting, scratching, acting like they've got an itch.
Licking their paws all the time.
Their paws all the time. All these kinds of things are stress diffusing. Let's lower the tension signals. People miss that, looking up, ignoring that sort of thing.
Or some of those could be the guilty look, like, oh, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah, and the guilty look, is we misread our dogs are here and now creatures. When we project, they peed on the floor because they're mad at me. No, they're not house trained. Or excuse me, or they're defecating and peeing on the floor because they have separation anxiety and they're in a panic. Now,
cats may do that because they're little jerks. Dogs don't.
I knew
one of our cats would do stuff on the floor if we did the wrong things. Have you had a lot of cats?
No.
No? Okay. Well,
No.
I'm just saying there's a difference.
No. Well, so anyway, but
dogs don't. They don't plan ahead.
They're here and now.
Moment.
They're here and now. So this whole guilty look business is it looks like it's real, but what people said, let's find out what's really going on. So they had owners go out of a room, and then when they came, the owners had been told, had told the dog, don't eat this or don't do something or other. When they came back in the room, they were either told the dog did or did not do it. Well,
so that's all the videos you see online. It was like, did you do that? Like,
right.
Oh,
right. And what you're seeing is appeasement behavior. So what the dog is exactly reacting to is that person's tone. Mm-hmm. They're going like, okay, this is not good. There's a problem.
I'm going to be in trouble.
I'm going to be in trouble,
right.
And I'm going to try to diffuse this situation. And then they go,
you're looking being submissive. I'm not looking at you.
Yeah. And so it's an appeasement behavior. It's a trying to diffuse the situation behavior, and the people go, "Oh, that's guilty." That's projecting. The dog is a dog is a dog, and that's where I agree with, some of the other training philosophies. Is dogs are attuned to people. They've co-evolved with us. They have developed over the years. They're the only creatures that look toward they have a gaze toward the right side of our faces. They're the only other creatures on earth besides other people that do that. And that's because that's how we read other people, and that's how they read us. They do not have that selective gaze to the right with other animals or with inanimate things, just with people, because they've learned to read us. So they are a part of our world emotionally, but they don't. And how they are connected with us is more like how children are connected with us. Do they feel secure or do they feel insecure and anxious? Do they feel they can depend upon us, or are we unpredictable? So anyway, but we agree that you have to train, and how do you do it? Now the dog is going to try to dominate me, then that person is looking for chances to push down on that dog if the dog misbehaves. Mm-hmm. And they're believing that when you do that, then you will have a dog that isn't aggressive.
You'll earn their respect.
You'll earn their respect.
You're the alpha dog, so I got to follow you.
And that they won't have separation anxiety. They won't have behavior problems. It's a one size, one solution fits all. Sounds very simple. Sounds very attractive. It doesn't work like that. What you do with dogs is when you start out, you teach them what you want them to learn. So you teach them, we don't want them barging through doors, so we teach them to wait, stay, sit,
that's all
down.
Handy for situations like the ups guy comes to the door.
Right.
You can say, stay here.
Right.
And I'll get it, and the dog doesn't think, well, I've got to check him out before you do.
Right. And there's some so you teach the behavior you want. Elementary obedience behaviors come in handy. You've got to have those in place when the ups guy or gal's at the door. If you haven't taught your dog to sit, and you haven't taught your dog to sit when you're some distance away from them, and if you haven't taught your dog to sit for 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes at a time, you're not going to get that behavior when the ups guy is at the door.
They have to know a behavior to replace the bad behavior.
Right, and that's what you
do.
Use
the bad behavior.
Right. Well, yeah, and you want to, as a leader, as their educator, you show them this is what you do.
Mm-hmm. It works for people too.
Yeah, it does, and you want to be confident. You're not asking them, I mean, you don't have to be harsh about sit. You don't have to have that attitude. You can just say sit, and the dog sits. You don't need that tone.
You could just give them
a signal. Though they read our nonverbals.
That's how I train. I give it the verbal and the signal.
Right. They learn our verbal. They learn our signals. Mm-hmm. They're nonverbal learners, and they don't speak English. English is definitely a second language. So you teach all those behaviors, and that is a behavior. It's called incompatible behavior. So if you don't want the dog jumping, you teach them to sit when they go to greet. You teach them if they're overly enthusiastic. You teach them to bring a toy up to somebody. Or you teach them to shake hands or something like that as a way of greeting. You teach the behavior you want. Now, that form of training takes more thinking. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. The other form of training is like, hey, you see something that you don't like, suppress it. Show the dog who's boss. Dogs are compliant enough that by basically 3/4 of the time, they'll say, okay, if that's the program, I'll make the best of it. When you teach them to walk at your side, you teach them to wait at the door, you teach them bark, and you teach them quiet. You teach them, you give them objects that become their preferred chew objects. Puppy's going to tease like kids, like a baby anything tease. So you give them something that is flavorful, that they can chew on, and that becomes their go-to when they want to chew. And some dogs are more apt to chew on things than others. You give them something to chew on, and that's what they get used to.
And if you got a puppy,
rather than your table leg.
If you don't want your shoes to be chewed on, pick them up,
and
your socks too, because they'll eat your socks, and then they'll get stuck in their GI tract. And then you got expensive surgery.
Right.
So if you don't want your dog messing with it, pick it up.
Yeah, and you teach and that's a point of management. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're in the teaching process, hey, we control everything. We've got the resources. We can let them have access to or keep them from have access to.
Inside, outside.
We've got basically all the cards, and when you're starting out now, when a dog's got problem behavior, you probably, if it's enough that you're concerned about your safety or the dog's safety, you want to go to a veterinary animal behaviorist at the Ohio State University when you're concerned about someone's safety, because if you let your dog bite someone, and it's a big one, the average bite that goes to homeowners insurance is like $15,000 or $20,000. You're talking a lot of money, and then you may be talking about your dog having to be limited as far as being behind, a double fencing if they are categorized. So go to a specialist if things are at the level that someone might get hurt. That's you've passed yellow. You're into red. You need to get the most expert advice, and then go to a trainer who knows how to train with the results that are going to create a dog that is respecting limits, is confident in you, and you know how to train. But management is so key. So if while you're training and developing habits, you want to keep things out of your dog's easy opportunity, so they don't develop the habit of chewing on your shoes. They can't tell the difference between.
Shoes are actually pretty good,
Yeah, right. They smell like you, and it's leathery and all that sort of stuff. I mean, what do dogs do? They're carnivores,
We've had
and
dogs
so they would go out and grab something and then chew it.
Had separation anxiety, so like a little dachshund, and they would grab all the shoes and scatter them all through the floor, just to like there's people around.
Right. Well, it's a self-comforting kind of thing, and so and when you're teaching, you teach the behavior, and you then ask for that behavior for a longer period of time around a greater level of distraction when you're at a farther distance from them. And then you've got a behavior that you can use when the UPS guy comes to the floor. Obviously, if you're going through a door, You don't want that dog going through there and knocking you down or knocking someone down on the other side of the door. That has to be a behavior you've taught, and it has to be well taught. And it has to be well established so that when your dog is there at the door, you're confident that if someone's coming in the other door, they're not going to get bowled over. Or when you're walking, you're confident that if you've just had a surgery, on your arm or something like that, or you're in that dog is not going to pull you or some child or some elderly person off their feet. That's just basic training, and then you want to know that your dog can walk at your side. If you're out in a crowd of people, you don't want that dog ahead of you, amongst people, because there's no telling what silly things someone will do.
Oh yeah, I've been in a lot of situations like that.
Yeah,
where I've had different dogs of varying temperaments.
Right.
And somebody just comes around, I gotta pet your dog. It's like,
right.
Ask first.
Right.
Do I just come up and pick up your kid?
Yeah.
Say hi? No.
Yeah, because you need to be able to guide your dog and direct your dog, because you can't. What you can count on is, in a large enough group of people, somebody's going to have really bad judgment with your dog, but
unless your dog's really good. But
yeah, well, I mean,
that has ice cream. I ain't guarantee he ain't gonna snatch that away.
Yeah,
from you.
and that has to do with socialization. If you socialize your dog a lot and you keep them socialized, then what they've learned is, hey, what's going to go on is no big deal, and they don't have to be on alert or panic or self-defense mode. So that is going to keep your dog safe. Now, and then there's an element of attunement with your dog. If a dog is alert barking, okay, so you teach them, bark, be quiet, but there's something, if they're alert barking, part of what they're doing is they're saying, hey person, you need to know that there's somebody at the door, Now, if they're alert barking at the squirrels and all that sort of stuff, management is if they're bored and all they've got to do is look at the squirrels, and they love to chase squirrels anyway, put some paper up across the window and block their view. Save them and you the wear and tear, Or somebody told me about that their dog, when has other dogs run through their backyard, and there's a door there with glass on it, and their dog would absolutely scratch and even bloody its nose on this glass because it's barking to get these other dogs out of the backyard. Cover the window, but you have to use some, what would someone using common sense, how would they manage this problem and do that?
Now, Rosalind, she's a weirdo, kind of. She manipulates Oliver. If I'm giving him attention on the deck, or if she's a little scared too, so she doesn't like to go outside by herself. So she'll run out into the yard, bark at something like, there's something out here.
Yeah.
Just to get Oliver to go out. Then she's fine. Then she comes to me and
right. And dogs.
Or after we go to bed.
Yeah.
She'll go to the window and just bark a few times, I don't know if she's trying to tell whoever is out there, which there's nobody.
Well,
I'm here. Stay out of.
Right, it could be my
preventative barking.
Preventative bark for the night. Anybody within earshot of my bark, know I'm here. All that sort of stuff.
So she's kind of weird.
but when we say they don't hear things, their hearing goes up. 20,000 20,000 cycles above what we can hear, and it probably goes below what we can hear, and their vision is much more acute.
They may hear a dog 10 doors down barking at something.
Right. Yeah, and that's social communication. But with alert barking, sometimes you can get someplace by saying, "Hey, thank you. I hear it."
Yeah, I've done that. When she's barked out the window, I was like, There's nothing there.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
Right.
And she goes
right.
back to bed.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, if you get that sort of repetitive kind of thing, you know, you can go, okay, thank you, you know, we're good, you know. The next time
You told them, you scared everybody away.
yeah, the next time you go out there and you look at it, you know, and there's nothing going on, and you just, you know, go up to the dog, you hold their collar, you know, and when they stop barking, then you release. You know, the third time that they're barking, you know, and it's a repetitive kind of thing. It's not because the UPS guy is at the door, this, that, and the other. The third time they bark, you go up and you just escort them to the bathroom for a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they learn, okay, alert barking, mom or dad's going to come and see what's going on and
Ruin
thank
my
me
fun.
for it. Well, thank me for it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. If I keep barking, then what's going to happen is they're going to check again, and you know, I'm going to get my freedom when I've quieted down. And the third time, if I keep it up, I'm going to the bathroom for a minute and a half. That message gets through. Dogs do make connections, but it's here and now. And that's management, that's teaching. And then if you teach them, you know, okay, thank you, and then quiet, you know, you don't maybe even have to go through that stuff. They use management, block off that view that's getting them, you know, rolling there. And mine, when the you know, mine came with, you know, you name a problem, basically he had it. Besides, he wasn't bothered by cats. You know, any other thing you can mention, and he loved fireworks. But thunderstorm.
He loved fireworks?
Loved fireworks.
Huh.
God knows he would have been a great gun dog. You know, but if were fireworks around, he wanted to go out. He wanted to be as close to them as possible. Exciting, fun, thunder, panting, pacing, carts. You know, a half a block away, just the sound of a cart, a bicycle, skateboard.
Was he scared and
children.
wanted to run away?
And
His
his reaction was, if there's something that's bothering him, he's going to approach.
Okay.
You know, and he's a fairly confident dog. And when I was training him to do bed bug detection, you know, I was with someone who actually had a commercial dog doing that, and they said, "Well, send him down this narrow space." It was only wide enough for him to go down. He went right down and then backed up, and they said hardly any dogs will go down some corridor that doesn't give them enough room to, you know, back up. You know,
Dogs don't like to back. They like to turn around.
Yeah, and I was at some place where there was a big agility ramp. He'd never seen that before, you know. And I said, well, okay, go on. And he went up and over. And the darn thing's like 10 or 12 feet up in the air at a peak. Didn't bother him. The guy, the dog has, you know, he is a nervy dog, you know, and self-confident, but also, you know, connected. And he really bonded with me. But he came with all these problems. And at one point, when a truck would go, well, if if we were in just anything, someone coming to the door. And it's been a whole process of counter conditioning. By now, you know, I've had him a number of years. He's a comfortable dog, you know, and I can trust him by and large. Although I monitor very closely. But when the UPS guy's at the door, somebody, I've taught him, you know, sit and stay, and I'll say, you know, I'll basically say, you know, hey, you know, someone at the door, show me. He'll walk over to the door. Okay, there. Yeah, thank you. Come over here. Sit, you know, stay, thank you, stay there. Then I'll go to the door and I'll look back at him. Okay, now remember, you stay.
I got this.
I got this. Then I'll go out. I know he's curious, who is this person, what's going on? So he stay there. I'll bring the package in or the mail or whatever, and then I'll let him sniff it. You know,
there's a little reward there.
There's a little reward there. And he also goes, oh, that guy. I remember him from yesterday, or I remember him from 2 weeks ago. I haven't smelled that hand for a while, but you know, anyway, you got to have some sort of also connection with your dog. They're not little automatons, you know, they're not just, you know, feed them a reward chip and then you get a behavior. There's an interchange there. They read where our gestures, where we're looking, they read our gestures and so forth. But you train the behavior that you want. You train the dog to give you that behavior under more and more challenging circumstances. So when you need that behavior, you're walking with your dog in a crowd. At your request, that dog will walk at your side. When you're out somewhere else, hey, you're free. Go sniff. Be a dog. You know,
they need that time too.
They need that time too. But there's something to be said. If you want to know that your dog can walk at your side, you probably better practice that. you don't just, you know, okay, we've done that for 2 minutes. That means the next time we go out in a crowded situation, we've got it. No, you got
to. They can lose these.
Sure, you got to, just like anything, you got to keep it in practice there
and be consistent.
Yeah. So how would you summarize, you know, kind of this whole dimension? You know, there's Fifi. You just shower Fifi with love, and Fifi is just wonderful as whatever Fifi's little self is. And you know, you got to keep your thumb on these dogs, because unless you keep your thumb on them, you know, they're gonna take over and push you as far as they possibly can. And the middle ground of, you know, these dogs are not little perfect beings that are wonderful no matter what, and they're not humans. They're not plotting against you. They're not looking to overthrow you. They are dogs who live in the here and now. I know, how would you what's your take on?
Well, on the spectrum of Fifi, needs training.
Right.
You know, needs limits, needs training.
Needed socialization to begin with.
And on this side, instead of domination, you need trust.
Yeah, trust and training. And that training, that doesn't mean, you know, hey, you can do what you want. No, you know, it's kind of,
you have to operate within these parameters.
Yeah, because this is how the world is, you know. Yeah. And so I can do that. I'll show you how to do that, and I will show you success in doing that. And you don't have to reward your dog every single time.
I guess what I was kind of meaning, trust is better than respect.
Trust is better than fear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing things out of fear.
Yeah, right. Because if you get a dog that says, okay, I'm afraid to do anything unless I'm absolutely sure I'm not going to get punished, you know, then, okay, you've got a dog that probably won't give you any trouble, you know, but you've got a limited relationship with your dog, and how that dog acts with other people, you know, that's a dog it's fearful and not trusting. So there's a wild card there. All right. Well,
hope this has helped and given some light on the alpha dog and the training aspect and all that.
And how wolves actually act. There's a whole mythology, you know. Actually, wolves are timid creatures.
Oh yeah.
They are not fangs and claws and let's just tear down the biggest elk. They survive by going after the weakest, smallest animal that they can isolate, because if they go after the other ones, they're going to get kicked. They're going to have a leg broken.
And they work in a
they cooperate.
Cooperative manner.
Yeah, and on that point, dogs don't hunt like wolves. They hunt individually. They just kind of all swarm, but they don't have a cooperative sort of thing with each other. So they're related species, but they're socially different. But dogs are dogs. They're not people plotting against you, and they're not little Fifi who's just a bundle of perfection, no matter what Fifi does.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.